Hi, this is Kevin from 3D Printed Props, and today we're going to be starting on one of Star-Lord's most iconic items in his arsenal, and that is his Walkman. That's what we're going to be starting in this video. Okay, so not unlike the Graflex 3-cell flash head, which was Luke Skywalker's original lightsaber, has any stupid little piece of equipment that you used to be able to find everywhere gone up so much as the Sony Walkman that is used in the Star-Lord movie, the actual one. You cannot find one of those on eBay for less than, a couple $100, $300-400. So I wasn't going to pay for that. So instead, I was very lucky that I saw a post, and I'm looking down at it, I saw a post on the Prop Replica forum, again, head over there, where someone turned, what is this? This is a TCM-600B, and made it look like Star-Lord's, there's a little bit of a brokenness to it, Star-Lord's sort of iconic blue and silver Sony, I should have remembered this before I started the video. I want to say TPS something, but those are crazy expensive. No, I won't do it. I've seen people 3D print them. I don't know. You just can't really get that look, the right look to it. I think I've seen people do some amazing things just with cardboard and whatnot. But I thought I wanted to try something a little bit different and actually use an existing item and change it. So again, this is as close as you're going to get. This is like I said, the TCP-600B Sony cassette quarter, and it has everything that you really need. It has sort of this division here. It has the clear, glass or plastic here. We've got that button. Of course, it's red. We'll fix that, and it's got a lot of buttons here on the side. Now, the original one that he uses has more, but that's life. That's life. I struggle a lot of times with, do I want to make it prop real or screen accurate? Because the Prop Replica forum is a lot about that, and sometimes I have to say no. I'm gonna make it look pretty darn good, but it isn't going to be the actual one. If I could buy one of those Sonys that are in the movie for $50, I'd buy it. This only cost me $20, and I lucked out. It was just, somebody just listed it as like a buy now, and I picked it up. So what we're going to do is, in this video, is we're going to, I wondered if I should just tape it off, or if I should take a little bit of it apart and then do some painting. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to take off some pieces, and then I'm going to paint them, and I'm going to just tape off other things. For example, I don't think I'm going to take off this, the lid, which really wouldn't help anyway because I'm protecting the plastic, so I'll have to tape that off. Now, this technically works. The battery compartment is a little banged up. It's loose, so I have to figure out how to fix that. And this would be cool because I can put a cassette in here and I actually play it. I am on the lookout for the headphones, a 3D file for those. So if you know of one, put a link in the show notes, because those are so crazy expensive too. I think I saw a pair for like $600 for the headphones, maybe $1,000. So let's go ahead and get started in sort of dismantling the pieces. Now these screws are almost invisible, so always have a screw ball right next to where you're working, and the second you take that screw off of there, you drop it in there. The other thing I do sometimes, this is going to be pretty simple because there's not a lot of screws I'm taking out, is I will just draw like a rectangle. So this is shaped like a rectangle. So I will just draw this, and I will, on a piece of paper, and I'll lay it on a flat surface, and I'll take the screw and I'll put it near or right on the paper so I know where it goes back. Again, I'm not going to get too crazy in taking this a lot of this apart. I am going to take this side piece off, and I think this top piece off, and that's probably it. really, and then do a bunch of taping. Now, there is one thing we are going to have to work on. Again, it has almost everything. It's got the arrow. This shouldn't be here. Okay, this Sony thing. It feels raised, so I will give this a little bit of a sanding. Also, his doesn't have this counter here, and that counter, I don't want that there. So I'm actually going to, and this could be blasphemy for some people who are, you know, vintage Sony enthusiasts. I'm gonna glue the pusher down there, the button, and I'm gonna just put a layer of Bondo or something over that and then sand this down smooth. So in this video today, what we'll be doing is pretty much all of that. I'm going to make this just like a one video build. We'll see. I might end up having to break it up. It all depends. You know what? Actually, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart. We're going to fill this area up here and let everything dry, and then we'll come back and do a paint job in another video. So let's get working. Okay, and now like I was saying, this little compartment here, that is not in the actual Star-Lord version, the Sony that he uses. So we're going to need to fill that in. And I'm also going to glue this push button down, the little button that resets the numbers, so it'll be easier, because I think it might come above, and we can probably test that out. Does it lay above that? Yeah. See, if I run this over it, it hits that, and I don't want to have to deal with that, so I'm going to just glue that down. And again, I'm sorry to all the purists out there, but it's just going to have to happen. I'm going to hold this down with this little paintbrush, because I don't want to get this all over my fingers like I usually do, and then I'm stuck to the prop. And let's drop some, and I just glued the paintbrush. Let's put some glue there. Push this down and give it a spritz of the, not too much, because again, this works, so I don't want to ruin it in that way. Hopefully it will still play with this button glued down. And there we go. So the button is glued down, and we can now, I'm going to let that dry a little bit more, and then we'll fill that in. And again, this is raised, the text. You know, I can't really tell now. Well, you know what I'll do is when I run the filler over this, I'll also run it over the copy, and if it fills it, then we know it's filled, and I can just sand it down. And if it's raised, then I've got more sanding to do. And then, you know, actually what I need to do first is I need to take apart what I'm going to take apart and then fill it, because I want to take this off, and if I don't take this off, you know what? This is funny. I keep going back and forth with this. I think I'm going to leave this on, and I'm just going to take this off, because this is blue as well. So if you look at the reference images that I'm going off of, you can see that this is all blue. It's blue back there. It's pretty much blue everywhere but this thing right here. So what I think I'll do is I'll just take this off, and then it is a really easy paint job. Mask this, mask the guts so I don't get anything in there, and then go to town. So I can start to fill that. Okay, so I've already taken one screw out up on this end, and now I'm going to just pop this one out. I have noticed that when you remove this, the top part pops out. So I'll just be careful, I guess, right? So let's just go ahead and remove this really tiny screw. And put it in the bowl. And let's see if there are any more screws we need to deal with. Or will this just come off? Looks like this is, oh, that's not a button. Okay, so the buttons, oh, I see what's holding it on. The buttons are holding it on because they have a lip to them. So I don't think I can get this off. That, and it's on the, oh gee, that was not, I didn't like the sound of that. That had the sound of me not knowing exactly how it goes back into it. Oh, I see. Okay. So it looks like there's a little clip here that I'll just need to figure out how to push that back in place. The main problem is the oh, nope, it isn't the problem. Here, let's zoom out a little bit on that so we can see what I'm doing. That would be helpful. Not so much for me, because I can see it, but you can't. So, since it comes off, like, it'll just move off like that. Because the, oh, you have one problem solved, another problem starts back up. It can come off, but it is held in place by this, which I don't think those are wires. No, that's just tape. Okay, good. I thought it might be wires, but that's tape. And then this, we don't want to break this off. Even though, let's be honest, I'm not going to be plugging this into a, well, no, that's the microphone. So who knows, maybe I'll want to use the mic. So this is connected to the mic. So I don't want to break that off. I don't want to have to deal with soldering that back on. So it still works out really well, because when we paint this, I still can do something like this and just put a piece of, you know, tape and cover this thing up and just be painting it like this. Although I have to decide, you know, if I doubt very highly I'm going to use that microphone ever. So I think I am just going to snip it. Those of you out there that are purists and really can't believe this is going to happen, it is. And I can always solder that back together if I want. So now I have two separate pieces, which is perfect, because this piece gets the silver, okay, and this piece gets the blue. Okay, now we are going to get ready to fill this in, and I'm going to use my trusty wood putty. I'm a little worried about it because I don't know if it will adhere to the metal. I'm going to just scuff this up a little bit, and the plastic. If it doesn't, we'll just go ahead and use Bondo. I don't care for using Bondo because it smells so bad, and you got to have masks and everything. So we're just going to go ahead and give this a try. Okay, so I'm going to first go over the name and see if it fills it in, and then I'll know if that's raised or if it's recessed. I think it's recessed. I cannot tell. That is so strange. Oh wait, okay, wait, I see. Go over this way with my nail. Okay, it's recessed, but it's so fine that the stuff isn't even really filling it. So I'm going to go over it a little bit thicker. So it's just covering the name up totally, getting the word cassette as well, and just lay it on really thick, and then, you know, take the time sanding. Again, I'm sorry to the Sony enthusiasts out there that I'm creating. This is like a mortal sin. Where I saw this was over on the replica prop forum board, and actually I'm going to raise this up, and someone did point out that it was a shame and wrong that the person who did this ruined a vintage piece of equipment. And I'm you know, I realize that, but at the same time, I was not going to spend that much money on the one that they used in the movie. Okay, so that's deep enough and thick enough that it's definitely going to need another bit of filler, because it's going to sink in there when it dries. So now we'll go ahead and leave this. We will clean off our palette knife, whoops, because then it'll be okay to use. We won't have to buy a new one like I've had to do so many times without cleaning things off. So now again, I'm just going to let this thing dry, and then start with a little sanding. We won't go too. We won't start with too coarse of a grit because we don't want to really scratch this thing up and maybe see it through the paint job. So we're going to go ahead and just be really careful when we give this thing a sanding. So yeah, that's next. Sanding. Okay, so I have sanded it down and given it its second coat to dry here. This is, it's going to take a little bit of time, of course, just going over it and over it. But the next thing we'll be doing is, again, giving it one more sanding with some finer stuff. We might have to fill it again. And then we're really going to get onto paint. Now, the interesting thing is, again, if we look at the reference, we can see pretty much everything is blue, that blue color. So we're going to go ahead and just paint the whole thing blue. We'll tape this area off and this area off. And then we will go ahead and work on the silver piece. And the buttons are also silver. Now, I might just brush those on because it'll be easier to brush it on maybe than to spray paint it, because then I've got to mask all this area off, but we'll see. It might just be easier to spray paint. The cool thing is, why this one matches things so well, is it has this little arrow. And that's important. So the arrow's there. Now, there on the reference, we can see that there's some writing here. The cool thing is, I actually have a line on some vinyl letters that someone has made just to make this sort of replica thing happen. So we'll get those in soon, and then we can go ahead and put those on once everything is dry. So yeah, now it's a waiting game. We sand, we spackle, we sand, we spackle. Okay, so what I have done now is I've taped off a lot of the things I don't want blue paint on. So there's some tape on all those buttons and in the little holes and whatnot. There's this writing here. There is almost no way I can save that. So, you know, again, it'll be gone. Maybe I'll even like etch into it a little bit to get the white to show up. This is a little loose because this cap holds it on. So I'm going to make sure I sort of clean the paint out of there so I can push this down when it's ready to go. I've had to fill this a little bit more, so I need to let that dry. Then the next thing we're going to do is give this a really light coat of filler primer and concentrate mostly up here because I want to fill in whatever little little holes or little divots that are in there, and in here fill that a little bit, and then give it a little bit of a really light like wet sand with something like a 2000 or something, or maybe even a 4000, just to smooth it down. Then clean it off with a tack rag and make sure my tape is all adhered, and give it its first coat of blue paint. Okay, so I've sanded that down as much as it's going to get. Sanded until we put some primer on there. Still seems weird doing this. Okay, well, hopefully I can fix that. Okay, so needs some sanding right here. There's a little bit of a little, I don't know if that's a lip going on there or what, and I can see the Sony is still there, a little bit depressed. I think putting on a couple coats of the blue would take care of that, but I'm going to give it a little bit more of the filler and see. So this is 400. Just going to go over the primed area a little bit and see if that lip needs to that looks pretty good. And the other thing we have to remember is that might just be where I put a little battle damage, right? The nice thing about doing a cosplay that I'm going to go over this arrow a little bit so it shines, and also sand down some of my fingerprints. That was really not the brightest thing to do. You don't touch paint once it's been put on. Okay, so I think I've got that pretty much as smooth as it's going to get. I might give it a little bit more. I wet sanded it with the 800, so maybe I'll give it another little bit of a wet sand with the 1000. I've smoothed this out, got rid of my little boo-boo there, and I think I figured out a way to try to protect the silver here, and that is using some of this. This is Windsor New Indica. You can get cheaper stuff. I don't think this was expensive or I wouldn't have bought it, but and it's a color, it's a masking fluid, so it's a liquid, and I'll get a fine brush and I'll paint on the arrow, just the silver part, not the inside, and then I can spray paint it, and then when when it's done, that'll peel right off. So we'll see how that works. I probably could have tried that on some of the buttons, but then again, why not? Tape's a lot easier than maybe trying to peel this stuff off, because I've only ever used this on canvas and stuff. So I am going to give this a little bit more sanding, and then we are going to go with some blue paint. And the paint we're going to use is right here. It's the Dupli-Color Perfect Match, and it is for it says it's for Chryslers, but it's car paint, and it's this blue color. Trying to see if it says the actual name on it. This was recommended over at the RPF to use, and it is Teal Metallic Blue. So Teal Metallic Blue, and you can get this on Amazon, or you can just go to your local Pep Boys or whatever, and they've got it right there. And that is pretty much the closest thing you're going to be able to come to with the blue. And the cool thing is, since it's automotive paint, it really has a shine and some sparkles in there, some speckle stuff in there, to make it look really sort of shiny and metallic. So that's really going to help when we finish this guy off. So, up next, blue paint. Hey, we are back, and did a whole bunch of spray painting yesterday. It was rainy, so it was a bit of a pain, but got a porch, so that worked out. So, where are we at? Let's take a look. Blue. So that turned out really well. That is a great blue, matches really well. Very pleased with it. So this is all blue now, this silver, but we're going to peel that off. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the mask off of this first. I'm going to just try, well, you know what, I'm not going to try with my fingernail. I'm just going to go in with the knife here and see if I can scrape that away. Battle worn. So it's okay, it's all right. And here's the other thing: if you've done this before, this kind of stuff, it's always heartbreaking after you've spent so much time masking and getting something ready, making it as perfect as you can. I mean, there's no perfect. Even this is cosplay. There's a really good channel. I cannot remember the guy's name. I feel bad. He does a lot of foam work. He's amazing. I'll link to it in the show notes. But he always says, it's just cosplay, dude. But, you know, we've all worked on making something perfect, and then what happens? You go ahead and weather it. So this is doing a little bit of weathering right off the bat, right? Because we're having to do some scraping. And that turned out really well. That is totally silver now. And it's got some wear to it, which is neat. So that's great. That worked out really well. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the this guy here. Because like I said, I put some on here to see if we could keep that, if we can keep some of the look to it without just going totally silver here. Problem is this paint really really just grabbed onto this fill stuff, or this mask. I'm going to use my fingernail so it doesn't, oh, there he goes, it sort of peeled off there, lifted off, see? So that did lift off a little bit, like it sort of peeled off like a wrapper or something. So that sort of just keeps I wanted to try to keep a little bit of the shine from that microphone thing and the little black where it says microphone. So you can see that some of it is still visible. Again, it's a little scraped up because I'm scraping it up, trying to clean this stuff off of it. But again, this is what we'll call preemptive weathering. How's that? Preemptive weathering. I like that. And this will be on my belt loop on the whole costume, so it's not like it's going to be, look, you can't see the microphone. There, preemptive weathering. What I worry about is here. I don't think this is going to work very well. So I'm wondering if I'm just going to sand that down. Well, you know, let's just peel it off and see what happens. Yeah, that was not a smart idea, because you know, there's so many spaces within the lettering that does not work. That kind of looks not good. So I'm going to end up having to sand this down a little bit, and then giving it. Oh, you know what? I might just leave it like that and then touch it up with just touch it up with a little silver paint. I think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to leave it like this and then touch this area up with a little silver paint. Okay, so before we can put this together, we need to paint the buttons, because the buttons should be the same color silver. Now, I think I'm going to need to, instead of masking everything off, I think I'm just going to get some the spray paint I used for here, spray it onto a plate, and then paint it on there and see how that goes. So let's go get some spray paint and see how that works. Okay, so I have spray paint on this plate here. I'm going to just see what happens. A little bit of a brush here. Oh, that works fine. I mean, I kind of knew it would. I did it before, but you never know. You always want to. Spray paints are different. The only thing I'm wondering is if I'm getting a good enough coat. Might have to give it a couple coats. Because of the, because it's so black. There we go. Now I did not have to mask all of this thing off. Just have to make sure I don't get the silver anywhere. And the funny thing is, I could really just sort of leave it a little bit like that, just because dark like that, because you know the buttons would have worn out. The black would have shown through, due to that's where you're pushing all the time, right? So that might work in itself. So let me give myself a little bit more of this. Yeah. I'm just going to give it some more. And then I think I'm going to leave it like that, because I like that those buttons look a little bit darker. And that was the clothes dryer, in case you're wondering. Because the workshop is in the basement, and today is laundry day. Boom. Well, that totally works. Perfect. We will let that dry a little bit, and then we will go back and we will be ready to put it all together. Actually, the last thing we'll need to paint, and we can do this when it's together, is the button here. That is usually orange, so we'll go ahead and paint that. And this button here isn't on the other one, but I'm just going to leave it black. I didn't want to go ahead and do anything like paint it orange because it shouldn't be. This one's also not on the original, but we're going to leave it. Oh, I missed a spot. So that looks pretty cool. I mean, for 25 bucks, you can't find the new, the actual, the Sony one for that now at all. And it's got a nice weight to it, and it looks cool. You can flip it up, put the cassette in. I've got to make the cassette, obviously. This is interesting. This could be a problem. I have a screw here. Oh no, I just took that off of something else. So, all right. Now, this is something I was talking about the other day. I picked these up on, what was it, on Etsy, I think? And you can also get them on eBay. But I picked them up on Etsy. The cool thing is he gives you two. He also puts the arrow here, but if you buy one without the arrow and you're sort of putting it together that way, he gives you the arrow, but that way he has it. So then what we do is, I've got to look at the reference. If we look at it here, once I find one, I'm pretty sure the Sony goes up top and the Walkman goes on the bottom, but I will take a look before I'm ready to do that. One thing I did notice is these letters. These letters are, I've really not ever done vinyl letter work before, but if I look at these, I'm pretty sure they are individual. Ugh. Okay, so that went pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, is it perfect? No. Does it look pretty cool? Yes, especially hanging from my belt. Who's going to see that? So, plus we're going to be aging this stuff. Now, last thing we're going to do here before we start doing some aging is giving this button its iconic little orange look. So I've just got some orange basics. All right, I am super happy with how that turned out. It looks great. The letters look fantastic. I'll put the link to where I got those. Just really happy with that. I mean, the color is the perfect blue. Again, all the paints and all those supplies will be in the show notes. I did the orange button up top here with just some orange basics acrylics. Cheap stuff. This stuff is great. And again, I am excited. Now, for a part I really like is weathering. So we're going to make it look a little bit beat up. Now I probably should look at some of the references that how his looks, but I'm just going to beat it up a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of just some black paint, again some black basics paint, and some water. Keep water in these sort of like ketchup and mustard things, and a little bit of black paint in here. And I use one of these, like for stencils, like they could push around. You can see the brush is like non-existent, because then you can really sort of just like work it in and get it really rough with it. And the other thing is these, I can never say that, Tamiya? Yeah. what are they called? Well, they're just really for making things to, as somebody puts it in the, I can't remember who it is, but I listened to this great podcast. It's called Monster. What is it called? It's called Creature Geek. And the guy he's a professional who does, among many things, but one of his things is distressing things, and he calls it browning it up. So this stuff is distressing stuff, and it's powder. So it's a wet base and it's a dry base. And I haven't ever used this stuff before. I usually just use this, but water. But I thought I'd try doing some of the powder. I saw Adam Savage do it on a episode of Tested. And I thought I'd give it a try. So I did. I started a little bit right here. You can see I kind of used this little foamy end, and I'm going into the black. And you could see it's really subtle. You might not even be able to see it, but it's, whereas the paint sort of really is more pronounced, this is really giving it like really just like a dirty look to it. It really is subtle. I mean, it looks like dirt. Now the key with this kind of thing is you really don't want to go, you really need to sort of, what's that called? Sort of do a managed chaos to it. You don't want it to look like you're doing it deliberately in certain spots. You want to look where grime would go. So, along the edge. So when you get that black and you sort of just go right along that edge, that would be dirty. And this crack right here. And along that. Oh, it just looks so, it's so funny because I tried so hard to get the paint to get on there really nice. And now we're making it look like this. I'm going to get some into here. I'm also going to pick up a little bit of the brown. I'm going to work it into these. Oh, that looks great. Because again, your fingers would be all over this area here. Oh, I love that. That looks fantastic. Alright, now we're going to get some more black, and we're going to get something up here along that edge. Because again, your edges would go like that. They would get dirtier. I don't know how this will show on the metal or on the blue. I don't really see a lot. Oh yeah, there it goes. You can see where the black is covering that, or the dark. But again, you want to really work it around. Like he's dropped this. Get it on the Sony, get that nice and dirty. I might just use this dry rub. I don't think I'm going to go with any of the, I might still, we'll see. Just going to sort of move this stuff around. I think I got it a little bit too much in one spot. And I don't have any here. Because you're going to be really using that a lot. Then it isn't the best paint job on that because I used a brush, but again, that's life. Alright, that looks pretty filthy. That looks pretty filthy. I am going to go in with a little bit, I'll probably put some more on there, but I am going to go in with a little bit of black. And again, it's very, very watered down. Sometimes I like to test it on like plastic by sort of just doing that to see what it's going to do. Let me get a little bit more paint in there. And then go into this crack here. A little bit more paint. Let that sit a little bit. Okay, and you don't want to let that stay too long, so we sort of just dab it off. We don't even wipe it off, because we also want to be careful since you probably don't want to use a dry rub and a wet rub. But, we're experimenting. Okay, now that we've added some grime to it. We're going to add some scratches. And again, I'm going to use this same brush. I really like this because it's a really nice stiff brush. And I've got some silver sort of model paint. And I just put a little bit in the cap. And just put a little bit on there. And tap it on the paper towel. And I'm just going to probably go, let's see, if you're opening and closing this, I'm going to be grabbing here a lot. So I'm just going to sort of go sideways with this. And if you can't see in the video, I'll watch the video later. And if you can't see that, I'll take some stills of it and put it on there. But when you're going sideways like this with the brush, what's happening is I'm getting little scrapes. It looks like little scrapes because there's not a lot of paint on there. And so its silver looks like it's taken some of the paint off. Now I need to get a little bit more. I'm going to dab it off. You don't want to put too much because this is just giving a... And then if it starts to look too like I'm doing it like a pattern or something, I stop. Some scratches there, and along this side here. That's starting to look a little bit too uniform. Maybe a little bit up here. That, I think, is it. You don't want to go too much. And let's cap up the silver, because I always leave my paints out and my brushes, but I'm working on making sure I wash these, especially this thing. I love this thing. And you can get these in those stencil packs. They're fantastic for this kind of work, punching and just moving the grime around. So there we go. Actually, you know what? A little bit. I want to put a little bit here coming off of that. There we go. More on the bottom here. All right, and there you have it. Very grimed up. I'm glad we took so much time with painting and masking, right? With how it looks now. Dirt and grime. You don't want to go too crazy. But that definitely looks like it has got some severe battle damage to it. And I am extremely pleased with it. Next thing to do is to pick up a cheap pair of oops, stop doing it. Don't keep working on it. A cheap pair of headphones. Again, there's no way on God's green earth I could actually get the headphones that Star-Lord has in the movie, because those things are, again, $1,500 for a pair of headphones. So I will be buying a cheap pair. Now, if you actually know of, I've been trying to find these everywhere on the RPF, everything. If someone has the 3D files, the STL files for those headphones, put a link to it in the show notes, because I'll print them. But if not, I'm just going to go ahead and sort of just get a cheapy pair. The key thing is to make sure it has the ear, the orange ear pads, and that's all people really are looking for. Well, hey everybody, I want to thank you again for watching. This was a fantastic project. The weight of it, the fact that it's an actual Walkman, that it flips open, could not be more happy. Of course, the next thing is to do the cassette and the headphones, but those are just a simple print job and buying some foam ear pads for a set I have. But if you are curious on any of the things I used to make this, the spray paints, the smudging up material, I'll have that there. I'll have the links to in the show notes. I'll have links to the vinyl letters in the show notes, and I'll also have the make and model that I used for this mod. And I found it on eBay. It was really lucky. It was like the only one there, but I think if you keep looking, you'll be able to find one. So again, our second prop in our Star-Lord build, really excited. Next up, we're going to be doing something a little different. So look for that video probably sometime next week. All right, guys, I want to thank you again for watching. Again, check out the show notes, subscribe, and like. I would really appreciate that. All right, guys, take it easy.